This is part of our Holy Week journey, a quiet walk through the final days of Jesus. This is Maundy Thursday, the table and the towel. The day of Passover had finally arrived. Jerusalem was bursting at the seams, every house filled with families preparing for the ancient feast. Tables were being draped in cloth, and the smell of unleavened bread drifted through the narrow streets. In the middle of the bustle, Jesus pulled Peter and John aside with a simple request. "Go and prepare the Passover for us, so that we may eat together." They asked where they should go, and Jesus gave them a sign that felt almost like a secret. They were to look for a man carrying a jar of water. They followed him to a house where, just as Jesus had said, an upper room was already waiting for them. Everything was ready. That evening, as the sun began to set, they gathered. The room was tucked away from the city's noise. Jesus sat down with the 12, looking at the faces of the men who had walked the dusty roads with him for 3 years. Luke tells us he looked at them and said, "I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer." He knew exactly what the next few hours held. He knew the betrayal was already in motion, and yet he chose this moment to be with them. He took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it. The sound of the crust snapping was the only noise in the room. "This is my body, given for you. Do this to remember me." Then he took the cup. "This cup, poured out for you, is the new covenant in my blood." The words were quiet, almost a whisper, but in that small room the world shifted. Nothing would ever be the same again. And then, in a moment that caught them all off guard, Jesus stood up. He set aside his outer robe, wrapped a common towel around his waist, and knelt on the floor. One by one, the King of Kings began to wash their feet. He washed away the dust of the road. He washed away the weariness of the day. He knelt before them all, even the one who would soon hand him over, and the one who would soon claim he never knew him. No one tried to stop him. They just watched, stunned by the humility of it. "I have given you an example," he told them, "that you should do just as I have done for you." It wasn't a command shouted from a throne. It was a gift given from the floor. The table, the bread, the cup, the towel. This is how he chose to be remembered, not by his power, but by his closeness, not by how many served him, but by how deeply he loved them. As Holy Week moves forward, the room grows quieter, and the shadow of the garden begins to fall across the path. This story comes from the Gospel of Luke, a careful account of the final days of Jesus. These moments weren't written to stay in the past, but to be felt, understood, and carried in our own hearts tonight. If this journey through Holy Week has been meaningful to you, we invite you to like and subscribe and keep walking with us through the stories of Scripture with the cardinal and dove.